the devil is in the details. Here are some of the hurdles we work through during an active deal.
Hey!
Hey, friends. Hi.
It's the Lone Lounge. We're back.
Back at it.
And we're with a friend. A good friend.
A colleague.
A colleague.
Our best in the biz. Our operations manager, Ashley Tobias, is here with us. And we're going to kind of dig into what happens when you go into contract. And what are some of the hurdles that we feel like some of our clients are running into once they get into processing and we've handed the reins off to their team, and how we can avoid some of the BS that kind of happens and slows down the deals. So what are we diving into?
Yeah, so with our processing team, we try to collect as many docs up front as possible. That way, when we do have conditions in the back end, we're not asking our borrowers for as much.
Yeah.
And one of the things that comes up often is operating agreements. So if you have a single member entity, if you're the sole owner, you still need an operating agreement.
Yep.
Yeah, we run into this a ton because technically in the state of Ohio, it's not required. And so often we get those clients that are like, oh, I don't need it. It's just me. Cool. Doesn't matter.
Every single lender requires an operating agreement.
A signed operating agreement.
A signed, you got to sign it.
Operating agreement.
And you have to fill it out.
Weird concepts here, guys.
Yeah.
So,
Like if you go and you Google something and you get a template, read the template and fill in the blanks completely. Like don't just put some things down because, it needs to be completed, right?
Yeah, and the start of your operating agreement also needs to be the date that your entity was formed.
Yes.
So
Not
that,
today's date.
Correct. That can be shown on the articles for the state of Ohio, any formation document with any other state.
yeah. Your EIN has the date on it as well. So just reference it. We want the storyline to play out for the lender that, hey, we started this business and the operating agreement came along with it. If it's a multi-member LLC, I think what we run into often is like, who are the members? Weird concept, guys. We need to know who's part of this business and the
Ownership.
weird
Yeah.
percentages. Little things like that are going to play a huge factor because on our side of things, we have to pick and choose which lender is going to use which guarantor to qualify. So those are huge factors that will determine how the file functions.
Yeah.
Gosh, I can only imagine how much that slows things down when we don't have an operating agreement. Potentially, we're coming up with multiple members, and then we're having to chase down additional applications.
It does, because you guys can set up a deal thinking that it's a single member, and then we set up the file, we ask for the operating agreement. We already have all these things in motion. We've already started the file, started the paperwork, and then we get that operating agreement in, and it's 50-50. Well, now it's not just one member that has to guarantee the loan, it's two members. And there's some things that we can do to, get it back on track, but it definitely does throw a wrench in things.
Yeah, we want to start this thing out with the best foot forward, and I think too often that first deal is always going to be a little bit longer of a process. But the great thing is our processing team keeps all these documents on file, and we'll have them forever so that we can do 100 loans together, not just one. But starting out on the best foot and making sure we actually just on a previous video talked about like 2025. Get your shit together.
Yeah.
And one of those things is having your LLC set up and ready to go, and we actually dove into that. So you'll
Oh, yeah.
hopefully have some great
some
2025
backup.
clients
Yeah.
ready to go and be kind of putting your best foot forward. So what's number 2?
Number 2 would be leases.
Yeah.
A lot of the times your lender will need a lease to get the loan all the way to the closing table. Sometimes if the property's occupied, the lender will require to see that lease. That lease also needs to be signed. Preferably a 12-month lease would be the best bet. If it is month to month, just make sure you can show your rents and that you're collecting those rents.
Something that just came up recently, I think on one of our files, is the language of the lease said that it goes from this date to that date unless otherwise stated. Well, guess what? Everybody does. They go this date to this date, and then the tenant says, oh, I want to stay another month or two. Okay, cool. Yeah, just keep paying your rent. Well, guess what? Your lease doesn't say that. So then if your lease doesn't say, and then it will go month to month, then we have to go back and we have to get an addendum, an amendment to the lease that says yes, it will go month to month.
Or like an
Yeah.
auto renewal. Hey, now
Or-
you're on a
yeah.
new 12-month lease or something like that.
Or an auto renewal.
And
yeah.
this is some of the things that like you need to tighten up on as a
Yeah.
landlord. Make sure that you're keeping track of your leases, that they're in good standing, that they're structured correctly. Because honestly, you're potentially putting yourself at risk.
Yeah.
Where, let's say that tenant walks out on you. What, legal standing do you have if your lease isn't current?
And as always, full disclosure, we're not lawyers. We're not accountants. Please consult your own lawyer for your own lease. We're not going to write your lease for you.
Yeah. One other big thing that started to happen recently is Section 8 leases. So I think, I guess I won't go into why lenders are making these decisions, but I will say that some lenders are starting to restrict on if we have Section 8 tenants, what terms and conditions we can offer. So making sure, I always say, tell us all your dirty little secrets. There's nothing dirty about Section 8, but tell us all these factors. Like, we need to know all the moving parts of the transaction to ensure we position you with the right lender. Thankfully, Ashley's team will kind of spotlight that if we see it after the fact and that information wasn't relayed. But know that could change who we can send your deal to and what those terms look like.
And the more we know up front, the more information we're going to have to put you in the best situation to succeed and close this deal. So giving us all the information is super key and important, because if we get all the way to conditionally approved and one of our conditions is, a lease has the same last name as you and we find out it's your sister, that could also be a problem.
That's a problem. Yeah.
It does happen every once in a while.
Yeah.
What's number 3?
Number 3 would be returning your conditions timely.
Oh, yeah.
Your spotlighted investors.
Yes. So we have conditions on the back end that we take care of. So your condition list might be 10 things, but we're only sending you 3 of those because we can take care of the other 7. But those 3, if they're not returned back to us, can really hold up the file. And one condition can also snowball into more conditions. So the sooner we get those back, the sooner we can get it moving.
And to break down the jargon a little bit, so what happens is when we submit a file, a loan application, which we call file, right? When we submit a file to an underwriter, that underwriter takes a look at it and says, okay, everything looks good, but what about this? What about that? What about the other thing? Those are the conditions. So, in other words, you get an approval that's conditional on fulfilling these certain items. And as Ashley was saying, many of those are on the back end. So things that we have to do with title, the title company, things that we have to do with your insurance agent. But every once in a while, we'll have one that you have to deal with, you, the borrower. So like, what's an example of something that a borrower might have to do?
Well, I think something that's a hot topic right now within our group is background checks and things coming up on background checks.
Yeah.
That's not something I can pull
Yeah.
for our borrower. I can do as much research as I can and pull from the court's records and that kind of thing, but a lot of the times, depending on the county, like that's not available to me.
So almost all these lenders are doing background checks because, okay, hard money, DSCR, we don't ask for a lot of documentation, but they are going to do a background check to make sure that you're not like an active criminal and, that you're going to steal all the money from the loan. So
It's also not a bad thing.
It's
a
not a
lot
bad
of the
thing.
times, all they're wanting is a letter of explanation.
Yeah.
They just
Like-
want peace of mind. That's all.
They want
Yeah.
to know what you did, how you feel, and how you're moving forward.
Yep.
To clarify, working with felons is not an issue.
No.
I would say the rule of thumb is as long as it's not financially related. So no, please tell us all your secrets, that being one of them. Tell us what's going on so that we can think ahead of time. One, are we positioned with a lender that is easy to work with in this regard? Let's get that letter of explanation from day one so we can provide that while it's in underwriting. And again, we're not here to dive into your personal life any more than necessary, but you're also not the first time we've ran into this. So we want to support our clients in all ways to get them to the finish line. Know that wouldn't be of hindrance. I would say,
We're also going to vet what you tell us, too.
yeah,
So if you tell us something, we're going to, talk to each other and be like, hey,
Does
green
this make
light.
sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
does this make sense? Green light to send it to the lender. So we're kind of like your filtration system
Yeah.
before it gets into the lender's hands.
Yeah, biggest reminder, we're not the lender, we're the broker. So we're going to collect all this information, look through it, make sure it seems solid. If something seems squirrely, we've ran into this before where it's, ran into issues. Hey, we're going to come back to you and say, hey, let's see what we can do to kind of clean this up a little to ensure that when it goes back into underwriting, it's smooth sailing from there.
Yeah, yeah. Another example would be large deposits on your
Yeah.
bank account. That's something I can't guess
Yeah.
and figure out. If it's a wire from a title company, yeah, it's probably another real estate transaction. I can call that title company. But 9 times out of the 10, the lender's also going to want a letter of explanation from the borrower.
And as we go into new months, keep in mind, investors, we're going to need a new bank statement. So as, November is ending, we're going to need December. Thankfully, on most of Follow-Up Fridays, which I would love for you to chat about, we'll put that, hey, we're going into December's months. As soon as your December bank statement's available or November bank statement is available, send it over so that we have that. Because for a lot of our clients, they're doing multiple deals, sometimes a month throughout the year. Us having those on, those accurate bank statements will make the transaction even smoother. So I brought it up. Follow-Up
Yeah.
Fridays. What are they?
Follow-Up Fridays. So it's something we do uniquely here at LFG. Every Friday, we send out an email to every single borrower. Kind of gives you a rundown on your file, what we're needing from you, what we're waiting on, any type of timeline update that we have. And we're hoping to get that out to you early in the day on Friday. That way you have time to get it back to us or take the weekend. So it's in our inbox there on Monday.
And this is that big urgency about conditions. So those conditions are going to come out. She's giving you the weekend.
Yeah.
Have it to her Monday. That is going to allow the team to work as efficiently as possible. Make sure that we're hitting closing dates. If we're expressing urgency, it's only because we're trying to make sure that this transaction goes as smoothly as possible. I laugh sometimes. Follow-Up Fridays, I feel like, has become crack.
Oh, yeah.
Where, if by 4 o'clock an investor hasn't got their follow-up Friday, they're like, Liz,
What's
is
up?
it coming?
Yeah,
Is
what's
it coming?
wrong?
It
Yeah.
has to be coming. I know it's coming. And I'm like,
Yeah.
chill. They're working on it. They're making it happen.
And sometimes we are delayed, and it's just because we're very busy.
Good problems.
Yeah, it's good problems to have. Or we're waiting on a specific update for your file. So I want to give you good news on Friday. I don't want it to be just all these, requests.
There are 100 people that are involved in every single mortgage. And sometimes we're waiting on other people to do things, the appraiser, the underwriter. But you don't want your own file. You don't want to be the cause of delay for your own loan. Just get us the stuff. And then as soon as you can get us the stuff, then we're good to go. And we can move forward.
Yeah. And if you don't, we're going to blow up your phone.
We're gonna blow up
text
your
you,
phone.
We're going to call you.
We're going to knock on your door in the middle of the night. No, we're not going to
We
do
need
that.
that bank statement,
Yeah.
please and thank
Yeah.
you. But make Ashley's team, make this transaction easy for them, which is going to make it easy for you as well and allow you to continue to scale your portfolio. This is what's going to make 2025 killer for everyone.